Welcome into College Football Smothered and Covered. My name is Barrett Sallee. I appreciate you checking out the show. This is episode 4. That's right, 4. And we are already in the top 100 podcasts on Apple. So I encourage you to share the show. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be the visual medium or the audio medium. Now, this show is live. We have not settled on a specific time, but it will be streamed live at a specific time. This will be early in the morning. We tried later in the afternoon last week, so it's trial and error. But I will tell you when a specific time has been settled on. We got a big show today. We're going to be talking a little bit about national championship odds. We'll also talk about the Alliance, a dirty word in the world of college football. I think you all know what we're talking about, the alliance between the SEC and the Big Ten. We'll talk a little bit about recruiting as well. Ohio State with a big commitment that I think can boost its 2025 class. A reminder, this show brought to you by Coastal Vibe Vacations. If you want to get in touch with them, coastalvibevacations.com. They do a great job getting you ready for summer. Okaloosa Island along the Gulf Coast, just 10 minutes west of Destin, the heart of Destin. All right, let's check this out. Let's get right into it. The national championship odds are very interesting to me. Now, first things first, it's a lot harder to have national championship odds now than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because we don't know what these rosters will look like. These rosters could be completely different by the time toe meets leather the last week in August. The transfer portal still coming up after spring practice. In the case of Michigan, the transfer portal is still open after the departure of Jim Harbaugh and the elevation of Sharon Moore to offensive coordinator. But no surprise, Georgia's at the top, Ohio State right behind them, Texas, Oregon. You know, these are, I wouldn't say Oregon's a blue blood, but essentially blue bloods, right? These are the teams that you expect to be at or near the top. They're powerhouses. And in a 12-team playoff, you need depth, you need talent, and you need coaching acumen. And obviously, all these teams sort of fit that mold, so to speak. So let's talk about value, right? Because we can sit here and say, oh, Georgia's going to win the national championship. Okay, maybe I probably will pick Georgia to win the national championship. Again, subject to change, many changes by the time the season starts. But I think it's time to talk value. And I think one team that is overrated at plus 220 is USC. Now, you lose Caleb Williams. That's terrible. I mean, obviously, that's a huge problem. Miller Moss, we'll see if he's the starting quarterback. I don't necessarily know if he can be the superstar. Looked kind of like one in the bowl game. I think he'll probably get the first shot, but let's be honest. Losing Caleb Williams, you cannot overstate how important that is. But that's not the biggest part of what USC can be. You think it's addition by subtraction with Alex Grinch now gone completely. Obviously, that happened during the season. But what's more important for USC is learning fundamentals in the offseason. It's their biggest problem. You go watch USC tackle under Lincoln Riley. It's embarrassing. It's like they didn't even practice during the offseason. You got dudes bouncing off of dudes all over the place, right? So that's USC's problem. It's been what has limited USC, prevented USC from being a true national championship contender over the last couple of years with Lincoln Riley. Will DeAnton Lynn fix things? I think it's a definitely upgrade, right? 1 year at UCLA, they led the Pac-10 or Pac-12, I should say, in total defensive yards per play. Second in scoring defense, 18.4 points per game. So statistically, you look at where USC should be and you're like, okay, yeah, let's go. right guy, right job, things are going to get fixed very, very quickly. I don't think that's the case. USC's problem is a Lincoln Riley problem. You go back and look at those Oklahoma teams run by Lincoln Riley. They didn't tackle well either. It's a philosophical problem at USC. Lincoln Riley is too much in the mindset of, all we got to do is be off. All we got to do is score 60 points a game. Don't even worry about the defense. Don't care. And if you've heard this show, you listen to me on SiriusXM, I've said for years and years and years, defense doesn't win championships anymore. Just enough defense wins championships. But I think Lincoln Riley lives too much by that mantra. You can't just neglect the defense entirely. And that's something that Lincoln Riley has done throughout his career. So you look at what this team actually is, what USC actually is. It's a joke defensively. And you're going to put USC at plus 220 in the national championship odds? No, no way. Absolutely not. In fact, I would look at USC in the Big 12 or Big 10 this year. I would look at USC in the Big 10 this year. I wouldn't even put them maybe even in the top 4 in the Big 10. You look at where they could be. I'd tell you right now, better teams in the Big 10. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, Washington. You're going to tell me that USC is going to emerge out of that? They're probably not even going to make the college football playoff. Because again, the defensive problem for USC wasn't an Alex Grinch problem. Granted, that was, I guess, a small part of it. It's a philosophical problem. It's a Lincoln Riley problem. Is that going to change? Absolutely not. So USC, when it comes to overrated in the race for the college football playoff, that's USC. There's zero chance they even make the 12-team college football playoff. A team that will, in terms of overall value, the Ole Miss Rebels. Look at them right there, plus 1,400. And if you've heard this show, you've seen this show, you've listened to this show, tell you what, you know I'm all on board Ole Miss. You know that I am all aboard the Ole Miss hype train. Losing Quinshaw Judkins, don't care. Bentley's back. Diggs is in. Lane is still there. That's the most important part. Lane is still there. And I just talked about a philosophical problem and that Lincoln Riley lives too much by the mantra of just enough defense wins championships. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin are in a perfect situation. They understand what the formula is. And every single year, they've started to fine-tune that philosophy. You get Jackson Dart, you get Trey Harris, you get a defense that is aggressive. This is a team that went to the Peach Bowl, won the Peach Bowl, got their rings last Saturday, a couple days ago, in the basketball game against Auburn. Morgan Freeman was there. How crazy was that, though? That's random. Love it. But Lane understands you win with a power rushing attack. They've still got the ability to do that, especially if they use Jackson Dart on the ground. They've used him the last couple of years. To a T. Exactly how you should use Jackson Dart. You supplement that with a really good running game, both between the tackles and outside on the perimeter. You have a recipe for success. Yeah, Quinshaw Judkins is gone. I don't care. I don't care one bit. And you look at the way that Lane has approached this offseason, clearly he feels like he needs to go all in this year. And he's done it. Transfer portal has done him well. And the SEC schedule, look, in the new era of Texas and Oklahoma and no divisions, an SEC schedule is going to be tough regardless. It's just going to be tough regardless. And for Ole Miss, it's not that bad. It's navigable. I say that word a lot. It's a hard word. It's a fun word. It's a hard word. So I think right now you're looking at a team. Will they make the SEC championship game? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. Are they a top 4 team in the SEC? Absolutely. And you look at these odds. If you're a top 4 SEC team, and look, I think they're better than LSU. I think they're better than Alabama. So absolutely, there's value at plus 1,400 for Ole Miss to make the college football playoff. I can't wait to see what Lane Kiffin has in store because, again, he's going all in. All in. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, Coastal 5 Vacations. Check them out. They do a great job. If you're looking for a place where you can have fun in the sun, Coastal Vibe Vacations is the one for you. Get ready for the ultimate family adventure with Coastal Vibe Vacations. Dive into fun under the sun, build sandcastles on pristine beaches, and create lasting memories for your loved ones. The family-friendly resorts offer exciting activities for all ages, from poolside games to thrilling water sports. Unwind in spacious accommodations that feel like a home away from home. Make this vacation unforgettable for the whole family. Coastal Vibe Vacations, where the sun, sea, and smiles come together. Book now for an ocean of family fun. 850-888-0515 or coastalvibevacations.com. All right. The Big Ten and the SEC formed an alliance. And I know the alliance is like a dirty word in the world of college football, right? Because what was it, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it might be 3 years ago at this point. The Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the ACC formed an alliance to all come together and work on the future of college football. At the same time, it was Kevin Warren at the time, the Big Ten commissioner, was poaching Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA. So because of that, the alliance, that word has become a joke. But now the SEC and the Big Ten, they are forming a working group that will address the future of the college football playoff, address the future of the sport in a way where it would be healthier moving forward. That's not the real case here. What this is, and there's a reason that it was announced right before the college football playoff meeting this week in Dallas, Monday and Tuesday. This is a leverage play. That's all this is. It's a leverage play. They want the other 8 conferences and Notre Dame to know they're with each other through thick and thin. Whatever happens, they're with each other. And for those who are still trying to figure out exactly what is going on in these meetings, because of the Pac-12's collapse, the agreed upon 6+6 model is in jeopardy. And the 6+6 model is the top 6 conference champions, could be any of the FBS conference champions. You could have the SEC not make it. You could have the Big Ten not, in theory anyway. But the top 6 conference champions, along with 6 at-large bids. But with the Pac-12 out, then you're going to have 2 traditional Group of 5 champions by default in. No, they don't want that, right? So they're proposing a 5-7 model with the top 5 conference champions, which would automatically include either the Pac-2 or at least one Group of 5 champ, and then 7 at-large. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. Washington State and Oregon State, but mostly Washington State, held that up a little bit. They want to work on the revenue share part of it because there's no Pac-12, and it would be silly to basically guarantee or almost guarantee one of those 2 teams a spot because there are only 2 of them, and One of them probably will be ranked high. That doesn't make sense. Everybody knows that doesn't make sense. But they're fighting over the revenue share that those two schools get. 100% agree that should be addressed. Anybody with common sense knows that should be addressed, because it's like we all understand how money works, but common sense is lacking in the college football world. Now, this isn't an NCAA issue. This is a college football playoff issue. They're two different entities. So the CFP actually does have a little more sense, but I think what needs to happen here, they're going to agree upon something, and we'll find out on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, what that actually is. So the Big Ten and the SEC are basically trying to strong arm everybody else, and it has to be unanimous. So if it has to be unanimous, then, those two teams are voting with each other no matter what. But this is all about long term. The new college football playoff format, the 12-teamer, is only in existence for 2 years, because those were the 2 years remaining on the 4-team format. So there really isn't a new contract. There's basically just an amendment that puts the playoff from a 4-team to a 12-team. This is the point here, is that the Big Ten and the SEC are saying, we're going to hold up negotiations beyond the 2025 season if we don't get what we want. And if we don't get what we want, we're going to go off on ourselves. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to create a national championship that only includes the Big Ten and the SEC. No, they're not. They're not doing that. Tony Petitti, Greg Sankey, yes, their job is to make sure their member institutions are healthy. Like, that's 100%. I get that part. I understand that part. But they also recognize how detrimental that would be to the sport. If you have 30, whatever the number will be at that point, because I do think there will be some more expansion, more realignment, but let's just say 40 teams in the Big Ten and the SEC. That's not a national championship. It's not. It's just not. And yes, you look at this year's college football playoff and how it was formatted. All 4 members in the playoff this year will be members of either the the Big Ten or the SEC next year. But you can't just toss away the remaining members of the Big 12. You can't just toss away the remaining members of the ACC. That's just not healthy for college football. So I think that's all we're talking about here. In the end, I think everybody's going to come together. Cooler heads will prevail. I know that's hard to imagine in our sport because it is beautifully dysfunctional. And we will have a 5+7 where you have the top 5 conference champions. And again, it's not necessarily going to be the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12 as 4 of those 5. Not necessarily the case, but it probably will be. And then you have 1 extra for whoever, and then 7 at large. It's going to be that. It will be that. Rest assured, it will be that format. Trying to maximize revenue, trying to strong arm everybody else. That's all this is. A reminder, this show brought to you by Coastal Vibe Vacations, 850-888-0515. Coastal Vibe Vacations, specializing in rental properties in Okaloosa Island, between Fort Walton and Destin, just a 10-minute drive to the heart of Destin, Florida. Plan your vacation right now, coastalvibevacations.com. Last thing, we have a big commitment for the 2025 class. National Signing Day, the traditional National Signing Day, is this Wednesday, but never too early to start talking about 2025. Ohio State has done that with Naheem Offord coming into the class. Now you're talking about Ohio State, not only with the 3rd best class in the country in 2025, according to On3, they have the top 2 cornerbacks, both of whom are 5 stars, both of whom are in the top 10. Now, this kid Offord is a speedster. Every scouting report on him, you need physicality, you need speed. Physicality up front, speed in the back end defensively. Ohio State knows that. Ohio State is already planning for that. They've already got 2 guys committed who fit that mold. Because you got to stop the explosive plays in the passing game. And Ohio State recognizes that. Ryan Day recognizes that. And then their next best commitment is a quarterback, a 5-star quarterback. So, and Tavian St. Clair is a guy who they've had locked in for a couple months now. So Ryan Day knows what's going on. And I think this is also more evidence that after the early signing period, coaches hate that month. They still are sort of frustrated. They're kind of coming down from all the chaos leading up to the end of the transfer portal. But now they love it. They're like, we don't have to worry about February. We're working on our 2025 class. So Ryan Day is doing it right because things have calmed down quite a bit. This is the time where in the past, coaches have been losing their minds, trying to make sure you get kids on official visits, kids cancel official visits, all this stuff. But now it's all about building your future class. And Ryan Day is doing just that. So Ohio State fans, you're kind of going all in this year with what you've received in the transfer portal with Caleb Downs and Quinshon Judkins and all those guys. But the future of that program looks very bright too. So congratulations, Ohio State. You got things cooking. I think things will continue to cook up there in Columbus. A reminder, follow this show. That'll do it for this edition. Follow this show, YouTube and Rumble. We are going to be live on those two outlets, those two platforms. We are live right now, but we don't know exactly when that time will be. Experimenting what works best, what doesn't work best right now, since this is only episode 4 of College Football Smothered and Covered. But I will let you know exactly what time that'll be once we figure out what works best. But you can subscribe on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I should say. You can subscribe on Spotify, Amazon, wherever. And the show will be up about an hour after we wrap up the live show. So I appreciate you guys watching. Please share the show however you consume it. I would love to build up the following. And again, 3 episodes in, we're already in the top 100 on Apple Podcasts. So I appreciate you, the love you've showed me so far. And let's keep that momentum going. Have a great Monday, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.